Okay, well, it's 10 a.m. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Welcome to our webinar on how HighJump Voice can amplify your WMS. This is a webinar presented by both HighJump and Vitech. I'm Allie Walker, part of Vitech's marketing team. Today you will hear from Vitech's VP of Sales, Gary Oldham, who is going to cover the fundamentals of voice technology and give you a glimpse at the unique capabilities of the HighJump Voice solution. Before we get started, I just have a few quick housekeeping tips about attending the webinar. On your screen, you should see a control panel in the upper left corner, and dial-in information is available there if you prefer to listen on a phone line. Your line is muted and only the presenters can be heard during the webinar. You can shift your viewer into full screen mode by clicking the appropriate selection on the control panel, and you should also have a question and chat module on this control panel. If at any point in the webinar you have a question, please enter it here, and we will answer questions during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. Don't worry if we run out of time and your question is missed. We are keeping track of all the questions, and we'll follow up with you to answer your question and any others you may have. You can also use this chat functionality to flag any technical issues you may have during the webinar itself. Finally, as a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and a copy will be made available to you within 48 hours of the live broadcast. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn things over now to Gary so we can start the webinar. Gary?
Thanks, Allie. Hi, I'm Gary Oldham, Vice President of Sales for Vitech Business Group. You're looking at the slide here, and it says how HighJump Voice amplifies your WMS. You might be asking, what gives? Why would Vitech be doing a webinar titled How HighJump Voice Amplifies Your WMS? Well, Vitech's HighJump's Voice Partner, one of the top Vocollect Voice total solution providers in North America. Vitech's well known in the HighJump community as the leading independent HighJump services provider and partner of HighJump. And we've got extensive knowledge about HighJump and equally extensive knowledge of Vocollect Voice. And using that knowledge, Vitech has developed the most powerful voice solution for the HighJump platform, and it is now available through HighJump as HighJump Voice. So HighJump asked us to take the lead on this webinar. So I wanted to just take a minute and go over the agenda, what we're looking to cover today. First, we'll get kind of on the same page anyway, by talking a little bit about business issues that are common to us all. And then we'll set up the assertion that voice can positively impact all of those common issues. Next, we'll take a little time to say why we can make that assertion and what we base those claims upon. We base those claims upon success at hundreds of customers. But we'll take a few minutes to discuss some specific customer results. Customers that are peers of yours within the HighJump community. Then we'll take a little bit of a step back and talk just about the basics. What is Vocollect Voice Directed Work? How does it do what it does? And we'll move directly on to why customers choose voice to meet their business challenges, and when there's so many other alternative technologies that are available, and compare a little bit to those claims of those competitive solutions. And then once you have chosen voice as your solution, why would you choose Vocollect as a manufacturer, or HighJump, or Vitech for that matter? We'll answer those questions and explain why HighJump and Vitech have chosen Vocollect for their platform and why so many customers in the world have chosen Vocollect as well. We'll also take a little bit of a deeper dive into the actual architecture, the technology itself, and look at what it is that Vitech implements within the HighJump platform. And lastly, we'll give a few more minutes to this audience to talk a little bit more about Vitech Business Group and why you can feel comfortable partnering with us. So, the common business issues. We face them all. Daily challenges, meeting the needs of your company, of your employees and your customers. Unfortunately, we can't ask someone else to solve those problems for us. We have to do it ourselves. It's up to us as individuals to identify a solution to those problems and those challenges. So this is a list of just a few of those challenges we face every day. They include increasing DC throughput, improving your customer satisfaction, lowering the cost, transaction costs, and the cost of just doing business every day. The need to address peak periods monthly and annually or at any time. The need to reduce returns through improved order accuracy, and the ever-present challenge we face of retaining employees through improved employee satisfaction. Now, we know that HighJump has already helped you address many of these issues. Voice as an extension of the core HighJump capabilities will further drive those costs out of your operation and improve efficiency wall to wall, and will help you gain further ROI from your initial WMS investment. And we want to talk a little bit next about how this can happen. I think it's well known that voice technology can improve fundamental elements of DC operations. I say well known. It's well known to the industry and the community at large, but maybe to you it's pretty new. There are several fundamentals that we want to talk about in just how voice can have a positive impact on logistics operations. There are many benefits of a well-designed and implemented voice-directed work solution. And these benefits are available to you every business day. Starting at the top, up here with improved productivity, improved accuracy, through voice-directed work. These are facts that have been proven time and time again through actually thousands of implementations. Efficiency is key. Having an efficient workforce every day is a goal. Having it with temporary workers is even more challenging. And our training systems can help you improve onboarding of new workforces and improving the productivity levels of your workforce every day. Safety is the nature of how is a key item, excuse me. And it's an important aspect of how your voice solution can deliver benefits to you all the time. The very nature of voice and how it's applied directly improves workplace safety. And peak seasons particularly can mean more people, more inventory, and more equipment, which can affect safety. Then the last two areas that we're talking about over here on the right-hand side, which have to do with efficient deployment and refined and consistent processes. These two areas are based on voice technology, but they're central to HighJump and Vitech's business. We identify the business processes that are critically important to your operation. We observe how those processes can be refined, deployed, consistently utilized, and then deploy them in your operation in a very efficient and effective manner. And these factors all directly impact the key business issues we've talked about in the previous slide. So let's talk a little bit about customers that specifically have benefited from these solutions that we're talking about. At the top of the list is Cisco Guest Supply. Give you a minute to just review that quote. Cisco Guest Supply is a New Jersey-based subsidiary of Cisco Food Service. The business is delivering everything that a hotel needs for daily operation, everything except food, actually. And you can see from the quotation that Cisco replaced RF scanning with voice in conjunction with the HighJump WMS implementation. Vitech did both the implementation of the WMS and the implementation of voice. The voice implementation was extremely smooth. It took about 5 days to implement voice at the conclusion of the HighJump WMS implementation. We did the first site, meaning Vitech did the first site in Corona, California. And then Cisco used the training that we provided to them for that implementation to do the remainder of all of their sites, which was a total of 10 sites and well over 100 individual devices, probably twice that many individual workers that were trained and implemented and use the Vocollect solution daily. Results were pretty significant, and they implemented multiple workflows, not just picking. You can see it's truck, partial zone picking, replenishment, cycle counting, put away, and direct moves. And productivity increase was significant, 24%. It was amazing. They had put away productivity increases of 28%, replenishment productivity increase of 80%, and overall a throughput increase of their operation by 28%. Excel Marketing is a fairly new customer to the HighJump family. They implemented the Accellos One WMS in their U.S. distribution center in Iowa, in Des Moines, Iowa. And they also implemented Vocollect Voice, and the implementation that they implemented is the same as in the HighJump space. It's the Vitech HighJump Voice solution. We enabled workflows there for picking, specifically picking directly into shipping cartons for both single carton picking and batch and multiple carton picking. What's important about that is the nature of Excel's business. Excel Marketing is recognized as a leading category manager for trading cards and impulse trade collectibles in North America. So baseball cards and football cards and hockey cards and all of those other cards, along with Pokemon and everything else that you can get at the front of a storefront within the U.S. Matter of fact, they supply over 18,000 storefronts in use in Canada with those items. So the things that they are picking are small individual cards at very high volumes and very high pick rates. And they also need to be very accurate. So they achieved all of their accuracy and in addition achieved productivity increases of 20% improvement in picked lines per hour. They commented specifically about Vitech's knowledge of their business. We strove to understand their business and recommend how they could make improvements in their implementation of voice to improve their operations. And through that process, they saw a dramatic reduction in training time, as well as productivity, improved accuracy. And they are now in the process of replacing the Motorola units with Talkman units. They implemented Motorola initially in order to have a low-cost implementation, and they achieved that, and it was a successful implementation. Then they trialed the Talkman device and saw an improvement in reliability of that device, and are in the process of replacing the Motorola devices with Talkman A730s now. Another client, 99-cent stores, longtime Vitech and HighJump client. 99 Cents first implemented HighJump Voice in 2011 to replace a Voxware voice solution in one of their distribution centers, and the results have been equally amazing. They've now gone on to implement voice in 3 additional DCs with over 300 voice devices implemented. They replaced the middleware server and the Voxware software and Motorola 4090s with HighJump Voice, Talkman A500s, and wireless SRX2 headsets. Productivity improved significantly, accuracy as well, and in addition, they overcame a nagging multilingual challenge that they faced in their operation with that prior voice solution. Through this whole process, they enabled a single view of their operation through the HighJump WA solution and took further advantage of all that HighJump had available to offer them. The key messages here is not all voice is equal. HighJump Voice delivers and scales to meet the needs of a growing operation. Fox Racing. You've probably heard quite a bit about the success of Fox Racing and voice directed work as well as HighJump there. They're a great customer of ours and are very vocal and actually evangelistic at the success of both HighJump and the Vocollect implementation they have there. Back at the beginning, Fox was faced with business challenges that related to tenfold growth over 10 years. And that created lots of problems, as you might imagine. The biggest challenge was just meeting customers' expectations. They were using paper picking at the time, and they're trying to pick 6 orders at once with paper, which is a pretty significant challenge. They had a lot of inaccuracy that resulted in inventory inaccuracy of it. They were only at 60% accurate inventory, and they had a lot of employee turnover. After implementing the HighJump and HighJump Voice solution for order selection, batch picking, replenishment, cycle counting, and dynamic slotting, they wound up achieving their ROI for the overall investment in 3 months. I should say that 20% of their ROI was achieved in the first 3 months, and they achieved 100% of ROI in the first 6 months. They increased their productivity of their workforce by 50%. They're at 4 nines in accuracy now, and productivity continues to increase overall across all the other workflows. So how does this all work? Well, simplistically looking at this, pretty high level, let's just start with the day in the life of a worker. So at the start of the day, the worker checks into work, picks up their headset from the locker, picks up a Talkman from the control center, pairs the headset to the terminal, and logs into the system. They do that verbally. Then the HighJump downloads an assignment of work directly to the Talkman over the wireless network. The software on the Talkman translates that data into audible statements 1 step at a time. After each step, the worker responds with a check digit, which is a confirmation or a question or a command. And the worker's responses are then translated into character type data and transmitted real time over the wireless back to HighJump. HighJump then will record and update that to the database. In Magic, the worker has just completed a task using voice. Now, I'd like to point out that this example that I'm providing, both the instruction and the confirmation of this work are done with voice. It completely eliminated the use or need for retrieving a handheld device or a wrist-mounted device for scanning or confirmation. It also eliminated any review of information on the screen or a keyboard. Actually, there is no screen or keyboard in this case. It's all done on a screenless and a keyboardless Talkman device. But that doesn't mean that scanning cannot be utilized if it's required, and we can talk more about that later. Overall, voice allows us to take advantage of 2 of the most underutilized resources in the warehouse: your ears, the ears and the mouth of your workforce. We increase productivity by freeing the hands and eyes of your operators, allowing them to concentrate on the task at hand and removing all interruptions or interacting at all with a keyboard, a printed pick list, a light display, or a scanner. We improve accuracy by utilizing check digits, improving the concentration and focus of the worker, and removing the distraction that's inherent with other technologies. Other warehouse processes also benefit from this same hands-free, eyes-free concept of improved productivity and increased accuracy. And training is considerably easier than paper or RF scanning. There are no screens, keyboards, function keys, no reading really that needs to be done. Just 1 step at a time with the most natural form of communication we have, which is speech. Safety. Voice removes cumbersome tools such as pens, papers, clipboards, scanners, RF guns from the hands of the workers. It allows the operators to keep their eyes focused on where they're going and to use proper lifting techniques. We eliminate unnecessary strain and fatigue through that process. We can also enable equipment safety checks as part of the initial user sign-on, which drives the worker to walk through a proper safety check procedure in real time, logging each and every step and at every acknowledgement. Now, it's interesting to me still. I've been in this business 15 years now, I guess, doing voice implementation. It's still amazing to me that we preach so much in the industry about not texting and driving, but we still try to give people a forklift and a device on a fork truck that they use a keyboard and a scanner with, and a screen, which is distracting, and I don't believe it's very safe. But I know that there are functions that require that kind of operation, but therefore the need for safety within the operation is significant. I can say also that one customer reported that the onboard safety check was a real savior for their operation, because an employee injury occurred where the employee actually tried to claim that the equipment was faulty and that was the reason for the injury. But the safety check, starting at the beginning, recorded that the employee went through all of the steps and validated that the equipment was working perfectly at the time of the assignment, therefore freeing the liabilities of the employer relative to that industry, at least part of the liabilities. So, why choose voice, or why voice at all? Flexibility is one of the key things. Voice can be used in operations wall-to-wall, and is frequently used in operations wall-to-wall. The very nature of voice-directed work qualifies it as a technology that should be considered for any workflow in the operation. The workflows that benefit most from these are repetitive action type of workflows with highest level of activity to travel ratios, and those get the highest returns on investment. We have implemented voice in workflows across the entire operation from receiving to loading, but order selection or picking will most often get the greatest returns and are usually the functions that are implemented first, but not universally. Close behind there are support workflows like replenishment and put away and even receiving in terms of operations, and sometimes audits that are implemented initially before even picking is implemented, but usually it's picking that goes first. Also want to say that voice isn't a big bang type of technology. You don't have to implement every workflow and even every picking workflow all at once. You can start with a small area and implement voice and move from there. So it's very flexible in that respect. You can even start picking a single assignment with RF scanning and switch to voice, or vice versa in this HighJump Voice environment, and start with one technology and finish with another. Tremendously flexible in that respect. And also it's important to understand that the efficient implementation and consistent best practices are the key to delivering value daily in any of the workflows that are implemented in your operation. Voice is about worker performance, plain and simple. Remember a little earlier we talked about those core business objectives where voice can be applied directly. The focus here is on the elimination or combination of steps in the workflow, steps that have had time associated with them. So if you can eliminate those steps, you can simply save time. So let's page through this. You'll see that in a handheld device on the top compared to a Vocollect Voice on the bottom, the functions within this world have to do with concatenating many functions that are displayed on the handheld device into a single function in the Vocollect Voice workflow. The combination of concatenation and improved workflow overall is what drives that productivity and drives accuracy. The elimination of steps where errors can occur will automatically increase your accuracy rate. Thus, the voice advantage in this situation universally is accuracy improves significantly, productivity is increased from 10 to 35%, and it's easier to train a new employee how to use this technology, so there's often a 50% reduction in worker training. How about multilingual situations, multiple languages within a workforce. Many facilities have workforces where the workers do not always speak the same native tongue as the local market. You may have noticed some of the customer success stories that we referred to earlier. Specifically, I'm referring to the 99-cent stores example. We referred to an issue where they were dealing with a multilingual workforce. That's a Southern California operation. Many or most of the workers actually speak Spanish as their primary language. But the operation is an English-speaking operation. So we worked with 99-cent stores to implement that solution with Spanish as an alternative language in addition to English. And Vocollect really shines in this area because it's not just Spanish and English, it's 35 different languages that we have the ability to work with. And we have a methodology and a training methodology specifically that we've used to implement solutions like this. We've done many Spanish implementations. We've done Mandarin Chinese here in North America. We've implemented French-Canadian speaking employees, and of course just the regular old Southern workers down here where I live in Oklahoma. In summary, voice wins because voice works. We've given examples both generically and specifically of voice-directed performance improvement in productivity and accuracy, overall training improvement, and improved workplace safety. And we've given general and specific examples of best-in-class ROI. ROI is enhanced overall by total cost of ownership, benefiting from reliable products and software for extended periods of time. There really isn't any available voice solution in the world that can equal a Vocollect solution in terms of uptime performance. Why would you choose, and why did Vitech and HighJump choose Vocollect as the solution provider that we would partner with to deliver solutions like this to our customers, like you? Well, this is my simplistic representation of various companies that represent themselves in the voice solution market and have a solution to offer. And I categorize these into three kinds of vendors. Hardware-only vendors that are like the Zebras and Motorola's of the world, where they have some solutions that are hardware-specific. Software-only vendors, where there's quite a few more of those in the space that are offering software on any hardware device. And then end-to-end solution providers, where that category of customer implements, or provider, excuse me, designs, builds, distributes complete systems end-to-end. And they also enable a community of partners to invent solutions based on those capabilities. So systems that are designed and built end-to-end yet are still open to partners like Vitech and HighJump to build solutions upon their capabilities. There are extremely few companies like that in the world. And Vocollect, represented by the large orange band there, is clearly the predominant leader. It's really little wonder that Vocollect is now the largest installed base of voice-directed workers in the world. That end-to-end solution that we were talking about has to do today with some very advanced technology in the hardware space. The SRX2 wireless headset and the Vocollect A700 Talkman terminal are our flagship products in this space. But they're not just the hardware product. There's a tremendous amount of software that goes behind this. This is a very busy slide in that respect, but it just touches the surface, really, of all the options and the flexibilities available within the Vocollect world to be applied by Vitech and HighJump into a situation that is uniquely fitted to your requirements. Not every HighJump implementation is the same. The capabilities within the world of Vocollect combined with the knowledge and options with HighJump, within HighJump and Vitech, really can be combined to deliver solutions that are second to none, best in class, world-class solutions for voice-directed work. Today, Vocollect by Honeywell has almost 1 million users using voice every day. And they have calculated that the savings based on initial ROI only is over $20 billion in customer savings to date. They're installed in 60 countries worldwide, and we have 35 languages supported for operation within those countries. In addition, we do record and playback technologies for languages that aren't included in that list of 35. And there's over 2,000 members of the teams, both the direct sales forces and the partner sales forces and support operations worldwide to assist our customers in implementing, designing, implementing, and deploying the solutions. While Vocollect Voice had its roots in grocery, beer distribution, food service, and the like, the reach of voice technology goes way beyond that. Today, more than 75% of Vocollect's new business is outside of those grocery core markets. Adoption of Vocollect Voice continues to grow rapidly due to explosion of omni-channel and other fulfillment requirements that are driven by social media and other ordering options and electronic e-commerce initiatives that are ongoing within the retail operations today. But in addition, voice is used beyond logistics and warehouse. You'll see a central image there in this screen of a person using, a technician using voice to be guided through daily activities for inspection of voice, inspection of an automobile or a truck or an airplane engine or any other manufacturing or servicing process within an operation. And Vitech is heavily involved in those initiatives. Why HighJump Voice? Well, there's a lot of different ways to implement voice within any WMS environment. There are hybrids, though, of 3 primary methods of implementation, represented by the 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the direct interface, 2 being voice link and middleware, and 3 being voice express, which is an advanced screen capture type technology for implementation of a voice solution. Note the business layer logic is represented by the gray at the top. That's where HighJump Supply Chain Advantage, the Accellos A1 and Enterprise 3PL WMS environments reside. It's also where the unique host connection capability takes place. And we're talking about, 1, the connection manager capability within the HighJump Voice solution, or a middleware solution, or a Voice Express controller solution. Option 1 is the direct interface, and it's the architecture we deliver for the HighJump WA environments. And we'll discuss it in greater depth over the next couple slides. There are 4 primary components of this. Let's take a little deeper look into those. Vitech's Connection Manager is the core host connection software that's utilized in HighJump Voice. And it's a socket listener and contains the SQL stored procedures which are executed in response to terminal and host messaging. In this Vocollect world, all the messaging originates with the terminal. So it executes against messages. The HighJump WA executes against messages received through the Connection Manager, which originate with the Talkman device. Vitech configures or develops a dialogue, the voice application that runs on the terminal. So this is referred to often as a voice user interface. We talk about a graphical user interface with a screen-based and keyboard-based device, but in the voice world, the voice user interface is simply the way a worker interacts verbally and audibly with the device itself. Voice Catalyst is a powerful Vocollect software component that interacts with the WinCE 6 operating system. It interacts also with the headsets and with the voice application that we just discussed, and also with Voice Console, which is there to enable an end-to-end solution overall. Voice Console itself is the management software that's deployed to enable all the functions required to manage the entire wireless solution. The operators using each of these devices then are maintained or monitored by Voice Console. It monitors also the state of the device, the IP addresses, the security, and the profiles for each worker, including the language that that worker uses, the speed the worker chooses to use, the tone and the pitch. It stores that and brings that back just the way the worker used it the last time they picked up a device to do their job. So that's the basics overview of the HighJump voice landscape. If you look at it from an object-oriented view, the host environment is represented by the shaded box up in the right-hand side here. The voice console down to the left, over here to the left, is represented by a separate server. In reality, in most landscapes, voice console is not a separate server. It can reside on the WMS server itself. But it depends on your choice of using a distributed or centralized architecture for doing that. You also want to note that devices shown in the lower left here interact with voice console via HTTP, whereas that's just the initial setup and an ongoing heartbeat kind of a communication that takes place between the devices and voice console. But the data flows via TCP/IP through a socket connection with the connection manager, and which generates a SQL procedure, stored procedure, which executes against the database in the WMS environment. This enables, well, what I should say is Vitech's HighJump knowledge and expertise, how the database is architected, how the WMS application runs, in combination with the requirements of a voice environment, allowed us to build a solution that enabled the application, the voice application running on the devices here, to interact directly with the database in the HighJump world, which is key to enabling a solution that scales with hundreds of users and delivers the performance and capabilities that we've spoken to earlier in this presentation. So in summary, the architecture that we've discussed so far is in place for the purpose of delivering improved performance, increased throughput, and frankly, amazing flexibility. The combination of Vitech's in-depth knowledge of HighJump software and the Vocollect solution set enables HighJump customers to take advantage of all that HighJump and Vocollect have to offer. Whether it's picking only or other workflows like receiving or loading, Vitech can help you make it happen with voice, all in a real-time fashion. Whether it's picking or replanning of tasks, such as interleave functions around cycle counting and replenishment, it doesn't matter. We can help you deploy a solution in combination with the HighJump WMS that really screams on the floor of your warehouse. Why did HighJump choose Vitech? Well, the first reason is our HighJump experience. We're the largest independent HighJump service provider in North America. And we have more than 15 years of HighJump implementation experience, both in North America and Canada and Europe and South America. And we've implemented, South Africa, and we've implemented a large portion of HighJump's installed base here in North America. We have experience in every module of HighJump's Supply Chain Advantage Suite. And Vitech is one of only 3 resellers in North America to have achieved the highest level of certification available from Vocollect. We have more dedicated Vocollect Voice Certified resources than any other Vocollect partner in North America. And there is no other Vocollect partner that's a partner with HighJump that has our level of design and implementation experience. Vitech has added more voice customers in the Vocollect family than any other Vocollect reseller in North America over the last 3 years. And as such, Honeywell named Vitech as the North American Vocollect Voice Integration Partner of the Year. We are recognized as experts in extending voice to workflows beyond picking. Workflows like receiving, put to store, pallet building, put away, replenishment, cycle counting, packing, auditing. We have experience in them all. And critical to our success and central to our success is the implementation methodology that we use. There are 4 key components to that implementation methodology: define, adapt, perform, and refine are those components. Sometimes and often affectionately referred to as DAPR, D-A-P-R. This implementation methodology is built around our core capabilities and our experience and our skills, and those skills far exceed similar skills of companies that are often considered integrator. Therefore, Vitech is far more than just an integration company for a voice solution. Our project teams are each led by a solution architect who is also skilled in project management, and that designer stays with the project throughout the entire process to assure excellent communication and a critical transfer of knowledge between each step, which improves your opportunity for success and gives you assurance that the customer objectives will be met. Next, you can see on this chart our company is heavily loaded with design and implementation resources. These resources are dedicated to the success of your HighJump voice implementation. The vast majority of our people, 80% of our people, are dedicated to implementing and supporting customer solutions. In summary, HighJump and Vitech have developed a voice solution that is built for one purpose: delivering performance to your operation to meet the common and not so common challenges your business faces, using the capabilities of HighJump and Vitech Voice. Together, we have the ability to deliver on our commitments and enable you to amplify your WMS. So hopefully you've taken advantage of the chat module that Allie spoke to you about earlier, and you've sent some questions her way that I can now try to answer. Allie, do we have any questions?
Thanks, Gary. We do have a few questions from our audience. Let's start with this. We have some questions about voice versus RF. The first one is, how is voice actually better than RF for accuracy? Can you tell me how you can make this claim?
Sure, I can tell you. I'd love to show you. Earlier in the conversation, we talked about the improved focus, and that really is the predominant way that voice outperforms RF for accuracy. First of all, accuracy with RF has improved greatly, particularly in a high-density picking environment when a worker is directed to a slot. They're with an RF gun, they're looking at their screen, they're directed to a slot, they confirm the slot with the scanner oftentimes, if of course the barcode is a good barcode and actually can be scanned, then they usually have to do something with the gun. They either lay it down or hang it on a lanyard, some function like that where they have to move the gun out of the hand so they can use their hand to pick. In that process, their attention is distracted. In a high-density environment, you can quickly scan, put the gun down, look back up, and pick from the wrong slot. With voice, your focus is solely on the slot that you're being directed to. You're confirming a slot check digit while your eyes are looking at the check digit and your hand is in the slot. And you simply use both hands to pick the quantity of devices or items, out of that slot you need and place it in the tote. So a customer like Excel Marketing that does all piece picking in a high density pick environment experienced significant productivity improvements over RF scanning when they implemented voice.
Okay.
Feel free to, just let me say also, whoever asked that question, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to have the opportunity to look at your operation and point out exactly how we think we can help you with accuracy.
Okay, here's another one. Does voice technology allow me to configure a workflow that supports both voice and scanning? What would be an example of that?
Okay, so customers, sure. We talk a lot about replacing scanning and having improved performance over scanning, but it is possible to both use scanning and voice in conjunction. Voice does not, voice works complementary with other technologies like RFID and with scanning and other things. When a scanner is required, an example might be the capture of a serial number off of an electronics device you're picking. It might be lot code capture, where the number of unique digits exceed that which you can do productively and quickly with voice. Maybe 6 or 7 digits need to be read to confirm a lot code. In those cases, you might get a better productivity rating by simply scanning the lot code and using everything, all the other dialogue associated with the pick function is done with voice. In those situations, we often recommend a Bluetooth ring scanner that communicates with the device with no wires, simply mounted on the hand. So on a single function, like I mentioned, for lot code, serial number, catch weights, anything like that, we can capture those lot codes, those barcodes with that scanner and directly import the data into the voice dialogue, and the voice dialogue will confirm that you've scanned the correct item, and then you move on to the next step. Again, would love to talk about your application in greater depth.
Okay, here's a new topic. Why is the direct interface better than a middleware approach? Well,
why is it better? Okay, I guess what we've said in our presentation here is that in the HighJump world, we've elected not to use a middleware approach. The direct approach in the HighJump space is better because there's one database to manage. There's no replication of data across 2 separate environments. You can go on managing your daily operation through the HighJump WA just like you normally do. You're simply extending the capabilities of that HighJump WMS through voice in a very direct fashion. If a middleware solution was implemented in front of the HighJump WA, first thing is you would experience is a difference in the number of systems that you have to manage, the number of databases you have to control, the number of the way that the system receives its information instead of being direct in real time would be in batch orientation. And you would sacrifice many of the capabilities that are inherent with the WMS, the HighJump WMS, which is probably some of the inherent capabilities that caused you to buy it in the first place. And that is, they don't pre-allocate anything. In the HighJump the WMS, HighJump makes decisions on an interactive basis to determine what the next functional worker should be doing. And if you're not dealing with a real-time environment for voice, you sacrifice your ability to take advantage of that capability, that core capability within the HighJump WA.
Okay, I've got another question for you here. You talked about peak seasons. What options are available to cover large swings in the numbers of workers during peak seasons?
That's a good question. We do another seminar about peak seasons. We just recently did one. And in that webinar, we talked about the financial alternatives that are available. You usually want to acquire enough, purchase actually, enough devices for your core non-peak season, but you may want to rent devices that can accommodate big swings. We have customers like Booston up in Minnesota that does this every year, multiple times a year, where they will rent devices to cover a 30, 40, or 50% increase in the personnel during the peak season, and it avoids the need to acquire those devices that will sit idle for 9 months while only used during the 3-month peak season time frame. Other companies, though, have peak seasons monthly. In those cases, big swings probably should be acquired because financially you wind up paying for the device through the rental fees much more rapidly. But if you're running a peak season a couple times a year or one time a year, the rental options and leasing options we have available could be something that should be something that we would recommend and you should consider.
Okay, looks like we have time for just one more question here. Do people complain about having to share headsets?
Those customers who have chosen not to acquire a headset for every worker have employees that complain, but we don't recommend that. Most of our customers, the vast majority of our customers, have implemented solutions utilizing a headset that's issued to every employee. The benefit today of the SRX2 Bluetooth headset is that the electronics get shared, but the headband, which is an inexpensive $25 expense item, is issued to every employee, along with a microphone cap cover, a piece of foam that sits on the microphone and attaches to that headband when it's in storage. Those are issued to each individual employee, where the electronics are shared just like the Talkman is shared across shifts. In those situations, there is no complaint because every employee has their own device, and the electronics, the company is not concerned about the large expense of equipping every employee with a headset because they're simply sharing the electronics across every shift. And it really drives the ROI up significantly on a voice implementation.
Well, okay. Well, that about wraps it up. And that concludes our webinar today. Thank you, Gary. And on behalf of HighJump, Vitech, Gary, and myself, we want to thank you for your interest and for taking the time to join us today. Again, this webinar has been recorded, and a copy will be made available to you within the next 2 days, as well as a copy of the slides for your reference. And with that, have a good rest of your day, and goodbye.